while they let Wall Street do whatever it wants. They deregulate everything, the health and safety and economic protection programs for the American people. They give tax escapes, so big corporations now are making money in the U.S. and paying virtually no taxes, a whole list of them. It's the perfect corporate state that Franklin Delano Roosevelt warned about in a message to Congress in 1938. He said, when private power takes over government, that's fascism. And so that's what we're dealt with, a two-party duopoly. I'm all for third parties. I wish the Green Party well. Cornel West is by far the most progressive candidate. He's got the most complete progressive agenda in domestic and foreign policy, and let's have a competitive democracy and stop engaging in candidate suppression. The Democrats criticize the GOP for voter suppression. The Democrats are very good about candidate suppression, third-party candidates, bumping them off ballots, harassing them, suing them. We got sued a dozen times in a few weeks.
Well, Ralph, we're going to have to leave it there today, but of course we're going to continue to cover so many of these issues. Ralph Nader, longtime consumer advocate, corporate critic, former presidential candidate 4 times. He's also the founder of the Capitol Hill Citizen newspaper, which has a new issue out. Ralph's the author of many books, including his forthcoming The Rebellious CEO. Coming up, we'll speak to David Dayen of the American Prospect about the U.S. government's landmark lawsuit against Amazon and the growing calls for Senator Bob Menendez to resign after he was indicted for bribery. Also, the possible shutdown of the U.S. government. Stay with us.
It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. That makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds and the ink stains that are dried upon some lie. That keeps you on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy planted on their columns now that binds me.
Gentle on My Mind by Billy Bragg and Joe Henry. This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. On Tuesday, the Federal Trade Commission in 17 states filed a sweeping antitrust lawsuit against Amazon. The lawsuit accuses the company of using, quote, punitive and coercive tactics to unlawfully maintain its monopolies, unquote, allowing it to charge higher prices, harming customers and weakening competition. The lawsuit was spearheaded by FTC Chair Lina Khan, who made headlines as a law student in 2017 after she wrote a widely read scholarly article arguing for the breakup of Amazon. For more, we're joined by David Dayen, executive editor of the American Prospect. He wrote about this in his recent piece, Amazon's $185 billion pay-to-play system. His latest book is titled Monopolized, Life in the Age of Corporate Power. David, why don't we start off, and thanks for coming back today, by talking about the significance of this lawsuit, which comes just 2 weeks after the opening of a landmark antitrust trial against Google.
Yes, suddenly there is all this activity in the antitrust space after a period of dormancy for about 40 years. Specifically, the Google trial is the first in 25 years, first monopolization trial. It's not a trial to fight a merger. It's just saying that this company is using anti-competitive behavior in ways that violates the law. This is the same thing in the Amazon case. It's a monopolization case. And yes, as you say, it alleges that third-party sellers that use Amazon's network are coerced into using all sorts of services that Amazon provides, for which they take this huge cut. According to the report that I discussed last week, about 45% of all third-party sales go to Amazon in fees. Those fees are for logistics, something called fulfillment by Amazon, which is their shipping and warehousing networks, and also for advertising, which are basically, if you use Amazon search these days, pretty much the entire first page is ads. They may not be the cheapest thing or the most useful product or the most quality product, but it's things that the third-party sellers have to pay for to get into the consciousness of people who are searching for products. So there are a variety of ways in which third-party sellers are induced to use these services to pay Amazon. And also there's a sort of anti-discounting measure whereby if you are selling on Amazon, you can't sell your products for a lower price on other websites. And because Amazon controls 70, 80% of all online commerce, you have to be at Amazon because the eyeballs are there. But basically through an algorithm, Amazon crawls the web, sees if you're selling the same product for less elsewhere. And if you are, downvotes you in the search so that you can't essentially be seen by Amazon's customers, and thereby you can't sell anything there. So this arrangement raises prices across the internet and forces these sellers to sell for more money.
David, I wanted to play FTC Chair, that's the Federal Trade Commission Chair, Lina Khan, in her own words, speaking on CBS in June about the Biden administration's antitrust efforts.
When you have open markets, you want them to be contestable, which means that the existing giants have to be susceptible to competition. There are a whole set of antitrust lawsuits underway right now that allege that some of these companies have engaged in anti-competitive tactics that have unfairly blocked competition.
So, David Dayen, if you can talk about Lina Khan herself, a lot of corporate Democrats want Biden to take her out. She's the FTC chair.
Yeah, she, as you mentioned, wrote this very celebrated law review article about Amazon itself. Of course, the company has said that she is now biased because she believes in enforcing the law as it's written. And they're trying to throw her out of the case, much as they've tried to throw Jonathan Cantor, the head of the antitrust division, out of the Google case because of remarks he's made in the past. Fortunately, judges have ruled that there is no need for recusal here. Khan represents an aggressive set of antitrust enforcers that the Biden administration has put in and really reversed this troubling trend of the last 40 years to the extent that even some Republicans are moving in that direction. I'll mention that the Google case was actually filed during the tail end of the Trump administration. And this case against Amazon has been in the works at the FTC for 4 years. So the investigation at least started under Trump's antitrust Federal Trade Commission, I should say. But clearly, both Lina Khan, Jonathan Cantor, Tim Wu, who was the former Biden administration antitrust chair, they have all been instrumental in this newfound vigor in antitrust.
And of course, Jeff Bezos, we're just showing images right now of the CEO of Amazon, Jeff Bezos.
Former CEO, but yes.
Yes. Can we switch gears right now to talk about what's happening in Congress? I want to ask you about the growing calls for Senator Bob Menendez to resign after being indicted with his wife on federal bribery and extortion charges. He was indicted Friday, accused of using his position to increase U.S. assistance to Egypt and to do favors for New Jersey businessmen in exchange for mortgage payments, a luxury car, bars of gold, thousands of dollars in cash. Second time in under a decade, Menendez has been indicted on federal bribery and corruption charges. He's now, we're up to something like 30 fellow Democrats, including his fellow Democratic senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker, demanding that he resign. He made his first court appearance on Wednesday and pleaded not guilty. Your piece is breaking the Menendez cycle. Talk about what you mean.
Yeah. So what happened in 2016, Menendez gets indicted at the end of the Obama administration. He goes to trial. And because the Supreme Court has so defined down public corruption and bribery, that case ends in a mistrial, and the Justice Department ultimately drops the charges. However, it was clear that there was a lot unseemly going on in that first case, very similar in terms of taking trips and getting gifts and things like that in exchange for some actions on behalf of the individual who was alleged to have bribed him. Despite the fact that the Senate Ethics Committee wrote a report that admonished him, said he failed to disclose these gifts, that violated the law, Democrats allowed Menendez to get back into that ranking position on the Foreign Relations Committee, where he was in a position to help with military aid, with arms sales to the Egyptian government. And literally right after he is restored to that seat, another set of scandals begins. This cycle returns itself as he starts engaging in these activities on behalf of that certainly help Egypt in exchange for all these additional gifts. What I meant by breaking the cycle is the fact that in New Jersey, where it's kind of a political machine, the machine bosses, most and now pretty much all of the leading Democratic politicians there have rejected Menendez. They've said he should resign. Andy Kim, who's a congressman right now, has already signed up to run against him in next June's Senate primary because Menendez is up for re-election.
Also,
and so this is an
Larry
attempt to break the cycle.
Ham has said that he's going to run as well, the well-known New Jersey community activist, head of POP.
Interesting. So there is this sort of shunning of Menendez within New Jersey, which is his power base. And so there's a possibility that this cycle that we see will not recur. But he's apparently speaking to the heads, to two members of the Senate today in their caucus meeting, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that.
Mm-hmm. And what this could mean for the balance of the Senate next year if he hangs on.
Well, certainly, because, in 2018, when he ran against someone who had no money and no name recognition within New Jersey in the primary, he still got only about 60% of the vote. So there's clearly a large number of people within New Jersey who aren't that interested in Menendez. And the Democratic Senate arm had to spend about $7 million to ensure that he won the general election.
David,
so,
we only have about a minute to go, and I do want to get to the possible, do you say probable, shutdown and what exactly this means.
The definite shutdown that's going to happen. There's a solution readily available, 77 votes in the Senate for a clean continuing resolution to fund the government. Kevin McCarthy knows it would get 350, maybe 400 votes in the House, doesn't want to do it because the small faction of Freedom Caucus members would then try to remove him from the speakership. It's a dysfunctional situation. And I think that McCarthy is looking for somebody else to solve it other than him, even though he's the leader in the House. It's a terrible situation. It's going to affect a lot of federal employees who aren't going to get paid and who are going to get furloughed.
David Dayen, I want to thank you so much for being with us, executive editor of The American Prospect. His latest book, Monopolized: Life in the Age of Corporate Power. We'll also link to your articles at democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Produced with Mike Burke, Renee Feldstein, Guzder, Messiah Rhodes, Maria Taracena, Tammy Warnoff, Tarina Nadura. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.